Good afternoon. Communication. Functions of communication. Communication has been considered to be the bottleneck of management, where any management function is just not possible to take place without making use of communication. Therefore, communication serves four major functions in an organization. These are control, motivation, emotional expression, and information. Other than these, communication can also be said to fulfill the following functions in an organization: Instru- instructive function, influence function, integration function, informing function, evaluation function, directing function, teaching function, image projection function, interview functions. Objective of or purpose of communication. Communication is carried out with some purpose or objective. The communication activity of an organization fall into three broad categories. Inter-organizational function or organizational communication takes place within an organization. It takes place in the form of orders, circular, notice, emails, etc. Inter-organizational communication takes place between business organization and people outside the organization. It can take place in the form of company presentation, advertisement, displays, project reports, etc. Personal communication. This communication is undertaken without a specific objective. Personal conversation, gossip, grapevine communication are examples of personal communication. The desire of socialize and get formed into organized groups necessitates the need for communication in the fact or in the fast changing world. Managers communicate changes in the technology, structure, or people to the subordinates. If the communication system is well organized, it becomes easier for subordinates to understand and act upon the message. Communication plays important role in the lives of individuals and organizations. The following points are here to discuss about the importance of communication. Planning is the basic function of management. If plans are well designed and communication for their implementation, it leads to organizational success. Planning requires extensive environmental scanning and information about internal and external organization. An effective system of communication helps in obtaining this information. Implementing the plans requires communicating them to everybody in the organization. Communication is thus the basic of planning. Employees are motivated to work if their needs are satisfied. Communication helps managers know needs of their employees so that they can adopt suitable motivators and inspire them to develop positive attitude towards the work environment. Job satisfaction. Exchange of information develops trust, confidence, and faith among manager and subordinates. They understand their job position better and thus perform better. People are committed to organizational objectives, which promotes job satisfaction. Managers who follow an effective system of communication understand employees' needs, adopt suitable motivators to satisfy them, appraise their performance, and provide them regular feedback. The employees also work with commitment towards organizational objectives. Its coordination. Communication coordinates organizational resources, individual goal with the organizational goals, and internal environment with the external environment. Coordination is the key to organizational success, and communication is an active contributor to contract coordination. Adaptivity to external environment. In order to survive in the changing dynamic environment, managers continuously interact with the external parties like government, supplier, customers, etc. This requires effective communication system in the organization. Internal functioning of an organization or enterprise. Manager interact with the parties internal to business enterprises. They constantly obtain and provide information to them. More effective the communication system, more accurate will be the information. Relationships, that is the healthy relationship. Satisfied workers contribute to healthy organizations. Communication brings managers and trade unions closer, develops manual or the mutual understanding, and promotes industrial peace and harmony. This increase industrial production. Here, providing the facilities. Effective leaders interact with the followers, guides, and inspires them to perform the individual and organizational goals. Effective communication process facilitators leaders to carry out the leadership functions. Facilitators control planning is effective if accompanied by an effective control system. Control is possible when managers assesses subordinates' performance, correct and prevent deviations, and provide them regular feedback or performance. It controls functions largely depends upon communication system of the organization. How effectively managers control organizational activities depends upon how effective is the communication system. Imparting training and development facilities to employees depends upon how well their superiors communicate with them. Trainers and good communication skill are better than those who have poor communication skill. Then, after this, we have the another part, that what is communication and various types and elements of communication. Nowadays, communication plays a very vital or important role in the life of the individual, trade and commerce. For the growth, expansion and diversification of the business organization, and for its success, efficient and effective communication system is necessary. The term communication is derived from Latin word communis, which means to share in common. Communication is very old term and it early stage of human civilization. Communication was made in the form of physical expressions, typical voice, signals, codes, indications, etc. At the latter stage, signs, symbols, and language are used in communication to create understanding. In other words, communication means passing the information, ideas, opinions from one person to another person for creating understanding. Here we have the definition by J. Harold Janis. Communication means the process by which messages affects responses. The Peter Little says that communication is the process by which information is transmitted between individual and an organization so that understanding, response and results. Keith Davis says that communication is the process of passing information and understanding from one person to another. Littlefield, Rachel and Caruth says that communication is the process of conveying messages. In order that communication may occur, messages must be composed, transmitted and understood. Louis Allen says that communication is the sum of all things one person does when he wants to create understanding in the mind of another. It is a bridge of meaning. It involves systematic and continuous process of telling, listening and understanding. Here we have Shobna Khandawala says that communication is generally understood as spoken words, but in really it is more than that. It is the sum total of directly or indirectly, unconsciously or consciously transmitted words, attitudes, feelings, actions, gestures and tones. Even silence is an effective form of communication. At last, we have William Scott. Administrative communication is a process which involves transmission and accurate replications of ideas insert by feedback for the purpose of eliciting actions which will accomplish organizational goals. Apart from these, many other authorities also define the term communication in the more or less is in the same words. The above definition reveals the information or the following characteristics or essential points in the communication. That is, it is a two-way process. It will involve the transmission of messages. It is a continuous process of telling, listening and understanding. It must be transmitted in the manner of words, understanding or understood or by receivers. It must show response or